What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Undergrad Forum. Now today, we got a special video. I got a co-host, Cyrus, one of my classmates here in medical school. We're both second years. And today we're going to answer the question you guys have all been asking about: what is the medical school interview process like? So we're both second years. Both of us took a year off. So we're about 3 years or 2 years away from... What did we interviews last?
We interviewed 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago. So we still remember the interviews. Who cares when we did them last? So we're going to tell you what are the format of the interviews, what it's like, and we're going to walk through some tips. This will be a series video, so we'll have one on what to wear, how to prep, but for the most part, this one gets all the nuts and bolts and logistics out of the way. So let's just start with, what are the interviews like? There's like two main types, right?
There are many types.
Well, there's like classical and there's multiple mini interview.
I've actually personally never been on a multiple mini interview.
I had one MMI.
Where was that?
I don't want to tell where it was. it was on the East Coast. Sorry about it. No. Okay. Well, because if I tell you who it is, then I can get in trouble for giving you insight into how they do their interview. So we'll keep that generic.
So
we don't get
all experience I have is with the classic standard interview, where you have either two faculty members interviewing you, or one faculty and one student interviewing you.
Right. So okay. So put this in context. You sent out your AMCAS. The school sent you a secondary. And then they liked you and they sent you an email saying, hey, congratulations, come on in for an interview. You schedule a date. The interview process is the most important thing you're going to be at. Because at that point, you got your foot in the door. Mm-hmm. You do a good interview, you're in. Mm-hmm. You've done all this work, you're closing the deal now. Don't screw it up. That's what we're going to help you not screw up, okay? I don't know if we'll help you do great.
Think about it. So you go from 10,000 people applying to 5,000 people getting the secondary, through 1,000 people doing the interview, or that's probably even too much.
Probably 500.
500 people doing the interview. And then you have 100 people they're selecting from those 500 people.
That's right. So you have made it through a lot of pores like in this filter. So you really want to do great. And everyone at this point knows they need to do an excellent job on the interview. So what is the classical interview? I'll let Cyrus explain that one.
The classical interview, like I said, so you go to interview day. Should I go through the interview?
Yeah, tell him.
So you go to the interview day, usually around 8 to 9 in the morning, and you're in your suits, you look all dressed up, you're ready to go.
Professional business attire.
Professional business attire.
To watch that video, click here.
Obviously females don't necessarily have to be in a dress, they can be in a nice, what is it, business suit? Or
yeah, it's a suit.
It's just a suit.
Yeah.
And then you go to the interview day, you introduce yourself to the staff, and then there's like all these types of, not meetings, but sessions with different faculty members, different administration members.
Information sessions. You get to know about the school.
Yes, exactly. So like from 9 to 10 they talk about financial aid, from 10 to 11 they talk about curriculum, from 11 to 12 it's lunch. And then usually later in the day, you have an interview. Once with a faculty member, so like an MD, or maybe a PhD, or maybe even the Dean of Admissions will
that could happen.
Interview you. And then you have another interview, maybe with a med student, or maybe with another faculty member. The med student interview you should still take very seriously and not blow off, because they do contribute to the interview process.
So we both interview at our school, and you do not want to, if you blow off the student interview, you are not getting in. The student interview has just as much weight as the faculty. It's just that we're looking for different things than the faculty member is. So you are being interviewed twice by two people. Take both extremely seriously. I've actually had people I could tell like they didn't care about me interviewing them, and they got some pretty bad reviews because they were like kind of blowing off my questions. They were not very responsive, and we have to fill out little surveys, and they got low scores. So take it very seriously and put in a lot of effort. But the biggest mistake I think a lot of people make is that they think they're interviewing for 2 one-hour sessions. The entire day is an interview.
Exactly. You have to be friendly with everybody. Pretend you're on an interview with everybody. As soon as you step onto the door, you're interviewing.
The moment you get off of that taxi or shuttle, the interview, or it probably started when you got onto that taxi. If you pick the taxi driver off and he knows you're interviewing, he'll go out of his way to let like some secretary know that you were an asshole or you were a jerk, right? And that's not a joke. I've heard of people be like mean to secretaries, and then that easily gets referred back. So be nice to every single person you meet. Well, do it in life, but especially today. You cannot be rude to anyone. It'll ruin you.
You're constantly smiling. You're constantly
upbeat.
You are just a happy person.
Yes, life is, and it's a pretty exciting day anyways. Like
it's a very fun day. Honestly, you've made it to that day. You should be patting yourself on the back because that was a lot of hard work.
Yeah, and it's actually fun. You get to meet people. You usually fly out places. It's pretty exciting. All right, so classical interview. Click on this video here. We're gonna talk about what interview questions you'll probably be asked and the logistics of how to prepare for them. But that's a classical interview. 2 faculty member or 1 faculty. Normally it's 1 faculty, 1 student, and they'll just ask you questions. Go to that video, it'll tell you how to prepare, and that's the interview. MMI interview is a whole different beast. Classical interview, they can look at your application, they know who you are. It's about you as a person. MMI, it's closed application. They don't know anything about you. And the school I went to, I can't tell you who it is, but this is how their MMI was. And I talked to some of my other friends who did MMIs, and it was the exact same thing. It was like stations. I think they used their sim lab actually at that school, where they had like 8 rooms side by side, and each room had like a piece of paper with like a little bit of instructions you had to read. And it was all timed, so it felt like a military session. Like we all stood outside the door, we had to read the prompt, and one of them was like, you have a patient who is a nurse working at your facility, and she wishes not to be vaccinated for the flu. Talk about this with the person inside. And I just had to go inside, and the person was sitting there, and they could have been a faculty member, they could have been a medical student, they could have just been an actor that they sometimes hire, or they just could have been a layperson off the street volunteering. And they will discuss that with you. They talked about the ethical implications of flu vaccinations. Was it mandatory or not? Should it be for healthcare providers? What about children? Is there and this was my hardest one I brought up. That's why I'm telling you guys to think about this one. Religious implications of vaccines for men. I mean, I had no idea what to say. But that's how it is. They want you to think on your feet. And every single room is completely different. So this is a very weird interview in that it's not about you. They don't know who you are. They don't care about your application. It's just how do you perform under the stress.
Yeah, I remember somebody telling me about MMIs but I thought you went in and they asked you a question. Oh, I guess it's the same thing. But it's just multiple stations where you just get asked a bunch of questions. And
yeah, it's a critical thinking exercise. I had one good question. I don't remember. It was something along the lines of like you have a patient who's not taking their medication, they're a danger to others. How do you as a medical student, how do you think you would handle it and like report it to your attendings? Like it's just like they give you scenarios and they want you to think through it under pressure.
So it was all ethical questions? It wasn't any like what do you do for fun?
No, it was all thinking. I had nothing was about me. It was all about the prompt on the door.
Really?
Yeah, MMI it was impersonal as could be. There was nothing about it.
Well, good thing I never did that.
Actually, on my day, they had a weird situation because they didn't have enough people, so it got canceled. But the 8th door I was supposed to go to was supposed to be a team working challenge with another student who was applying with me. So we were supposed to work together to complete some kind of puzzle. I would have died if I would have had to do that. But luckily, like, they were missing one person, so they didn't have that for interview day. But like, say we were both interviewing at the school, we would have had to work together as like competing applicants on a task to make us still look good, but not the other person. It would have been, I don't know how I would have done, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's MMI. It's a beast. Read about it at the school you're going to. Like the school I went to, go on forums, wink wink, you know what I'm talking about. Read up about what people are telling you about these MMIs. You kind of need to be prepared. Not necessarily know the questions and answer them like memorize, but just be ready for the randomness of questions. Classical interview, any like, general tips?
Still, the same strategy applies for classical interviews too. Go to the forums and read up about it and just kind of prepare.
Yeah, and for the prepared video, again, click on that link. We'll walk you through it in more detail. But that's really the interview process. It's a great thing to get. You're being watched from, this is the biggest point, you're being watched from the minute you get there. This is a true, I would even go to websites on how to, like how people in business interview. Because it's the exact same thing. You're dressing, you're behaving a certain way, and you really have to do well. Because this is the part where you close the deal and you get in. Because after the interview, once it's done and you go home, they're going to send you a rejection, an acceptance, or a waitlist letter. And you want the acceptance letter, right? I think last thing to mention is the notion of, since we'll mention it here, what about thank you cards? Because you'll be interviewing these people, or they'll be interviewing you. Do you send them a thank you card or a thank you letter? What'd you do?
When I interviewed, I did send a thank you letter to everybody, either faculty. For the faculty, I sent a thank you letter. For the students, I usually typically send an email, just thanking them. But I would say the key thing about this is just make sure you send it very, very early, because I never realized how early, especially since I was doing interviews for where I go to, we write our reviews very, very early. Like
within 24 hours.
Maybe the day of the interview at times. So if you don't send that thank you letter quickly, it won't really do much.
I mean, it's good to be thankful.
Always send the letter, but
like, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. But I mean, if that was supposed to kind of like sway the interview,
right?
The person who interviewed you,
not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. So make sure you send it like very, very early.
But I don't know. Is it designed? I mean, yeah, it's obviously designed to sway the person to go, oh, what a nice guy, and we really do appreciate them. But you have to do it. Just do it as soon as you can. Maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't, but it won't hurt you.
Yeah,
and
it'll never hurt you.
No, just like, oh, thank you for the interview, thank you for taking the time. I enjoyed the school, best wishes, whatever your name is. All right?
Yes. All
right, so this is the intro of it.
I just have one thing to say. Even though this is a serious day, it should not necessarily be like you like standing on pins and needles. It's supposed to be a fun day too, because you worked so hard to get to this day, and it's so fun to go see like the different schools, different like buildings, different curriculum, cities. You know, like the day before or the day after, if you have the time to actually be like, you have an excuse to go to that city. Like I've been to like so many cool cities like on the East Coast that I've never been to. That it's just like I loved interview days, even though it was stressful. I loved them.
I love them too, yeah.
Because you get to see new places.
That's true, absolutely true. Enjoy it. You deserve it at that point. Go enjoy the city. I did, and you might as well, because you probably won't go there again as go to school. It's a free vacation as far as I'm concerned. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Click on the links down below and follow along on this interview series. And hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, enjoy your studies.
We interviewed 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago. So we still remember the interviews. Who cares when we did them last? So we're going to tell you what are the format of the interviews, what it's like, and we're going to walk through some tips. This will be a series video, so we'll have one on what to wear, how to prep, but for the most part, this one gets all the nuts and bolts and logistics out of the way. So let's just start with, what are the interviews like? There's like two main types, right?
There are many types.
Well, there's like classic, right. So, okay, so put this in context. You sent out your AMCAS, the school sent you a secondary, and then they liked you and they sent you an email saying, hey, congratulations, come on in for an interview. You schedule a date. The interview process is the most important thing you're going to be at. Because at that point, you got your foot in the door, you do a good interview, you're in. You've done all this work, you're closing the deal now. Don't screw it up. That's what we're going to help you not screw up, okay? I don't know if we'll help you do great.
Think about it. So you go from 10,000 people applying to 5,000 people getting the secondary, through 1,000 people doing the interview, or that's probably even too much.
Probably 500.
500 people doing the interview. And then you have 100 people they're selecting from those 500 people.
That's right. So you have made it through a lot of pores like in this filter. So you really want to do cool, and there's multiple mini interview.
I've actually personally never been on a multiple mini interview.
I had one MMI.
Where was that?
I don't want to tell where it was. it was on the East Coast. Sorry about it. No. Okay. Well, because if I tell you who it is, then I can get in trouble for giving you insight into how they do their interview. So we'll keep that generic.
So all experience I have is with the classic standard interview, where you have either 2 faculty members interviewing you, or 1 faculty and 1 student interviewing you.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Undergrad Forum. Now today, we got a special video. I got a co-host, Cyrus, one of my classmates here in medical school. We're both second years, and today we're going to answer the question you guys have all been asking about: what is the medical school interview process like? So we're both second years, both of us took a year off, so we're about 3 years or 2 years away from, when did we do interviews last?